How is everyone? All right, I'm gonna run my commercials when it lets me, and I need to do my Discord announcements. Let's see, is it gonna go through now? There we go. There we go. Okay. I need to announce. I should probably do this before I start stream, but I like to give time for people to file in. There we go. That takes up a lot more of my brain than it should. I'm a typing. All right. Let's put one in Bill's channel. Who doesn't love them some Bill? Bill is the shit. Got such good energy. Let's see. We'll put one in Joey's. We'll put one in the frog pond. Oops. Yeah, okay. We'll put one in Misadventures. And we'll put one in Jim's. Just gonna put myself all over the place. There we go. I'm not sure that I'll need much else on Discord for tonight. This is like the first time in a long time that I've actually been on time. I'm usually super late. Hello, Kimmy. How you doing? Good to see ya. Well, I don't think I'm gonna I don't want to blast my music too much in my ears yet. Oh, I'm doing great. I think what happened today? I started the day off by, oh, thank you so much, Janet! Jenny! Bloomy! Let me yell in your ears. I started off the day by going for a walk out in the woods. I was just needing to go drink up some nature, I think. I start getting drained. I have certain emotional clues that I used to kind of fall into. That would, like, one of them is like, I know I have people around me that I enjoy very much that love me and show me connection, but I start to feel like this deep loneliness, like I've been lonely a long time, even though it just kind of shows up. And that's one of my signs that I need to kind of reset. Sometimes it leads to burnout. Sometimes it's clues for other things. But I know when this deep loneliness feeling comes on kind of suddenly, and it's not been because I've been isolated for a while, I know that I need to like take a break and go and be out in nature. So that's what I did this morning. How's your day, Pluma? How's your day, Janet? I'm so glad you're both here. Hello, Smoking Schizo, my new friend. The one that I stalked on Discord. Be my friend. It's what I do. Oh, that's great, Pluma. I'm glad you're here. I was thinking about like letting people kind of file in and then maybe talking about inner critic. just because it's like, I guess it can be triggering if you have like an inner critic that's being kind of mean, but this is more about showing love to that part of ourselves. And it might not be the most triggering. I guess I'm trying to pick out something because I know we really dug deep into social anxiety and we might talk about it more on Friday. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of cooking up some things. So also, if you guys are in my Discord, I think most of you are. I'm going to put it up there. I should put, here, I'll do it right now. Let me make sure I'm spelling that right. Oh, thank you, Kimmy. That's so sweet of you. I really appreciate all of the support. All of the support that I get through the stream allows me to keep my mental health appointments at a lower cost. So it helps a lot. I deeply appreciate all of the subs and the support. It's awesome. I love it. And I want to be able to offer mental health options for people. Can you guys hear my Discord going off? Is that playing over the stream? I don't exactly know how to mute it, and I don't want to, just in case it's messages. Okay, well. Oh, well. Maybe I should figure out how to make that stop. I don't know how. I want to be able to offer it up here, like open-ended psychoeducation and little exercises to people just in case they don't have access to mental health. But just to throw this out there, since it'll be at the beginning of the VoD, I am a mental health coach professionally. I do in-person appointments with clients who are local to me with my horses, but I also do online sessions for many different demographics of people. And it always starts off with like a discovery call that's free, where we get to sit down and talk about what's going on for you and what might be right for you. And if I'm not right for you, I may be able to help you figure out the right avenue for you. But I do have to charge money because I can't take insurance. But the money that I get from the stream here helps me to keep my costs low on that. So I deeply appreciate you guys supporting that. Settings will silence messages, but I can still see them. Notifications. And I wonder too, if I go into streamer mode, there. If I go into streamer mode, then I can disable sounds. You are brilliant, Janae. Thank you for your help. You would think by now I would know how to use my computer. Okay, let's see. Had your third therapist in a row recommend you see someone else this morning, keeping interns because that's what the VA will pay for. And they get overwhelmed and tell me I need to find someone else. Fucking great. That sucks. I am so sorry that is going on for you. I do have several clients that like work with me and a therapist, but I mean, like how it's, I know that it gets insane to afford. Hey, Alts, what's up? Jim says Krav Maga. Beat the inner critic to an Israeli death. Whatever. It's been a while. Oh, I'm your favorite streamer. Let me soak that in. Thank you, Alts. That just fucking sucks, smoking schizo. I hate that they said that to you. I hate that for you. I am so sorry. Man, I mean, if you're ever in a space for coaching, I'm open to talking to you about it just because it may be the avenue that helps support you through your therapy as well. There may be a whole lot going on we deal more in the here and now and like what's happening now and helping to like manage what's going on now. Now there are safety risk assessments that I do just to make sure that it's safe for someone to be working with a coach. But like everyone that I have, even when they have some pretty like high numbers on some of those safety risk assessments, like I have yet to have anyone that I can't work with at all. The only thing I don't work with is like, I mean, there's some pretty significant mental health stuff, but I haven't ran into that yet because they haven't sought out a coach. But the one is domestic violence, currently happening domestic violence. It's just the one that I don't have a lot of training in. And quite frankly, it freaks me out and it rubs up against some of my own trauma history to the point where I can't effectively hold space. And if I can't hold space, it's about me. It's not about the client anymore. And I have a problem with that. Like it needs to be all about the client, in my opinion. Now you don't hear the messages. Hold on. Thanks, Plumie. My girl hooking it up with the test over here. It's funny. I like it. Thank you. Test 1 2. Does she know how to use her computer? Yes, she does, because Janae helped. Oh, that's funny. I like it. You guys are the shit. Okay, so like, can you tell me one good thing from your day and one thing that was challenging? Does everybody want to take a turn on one challenging thing and one good thing? It doesn't matter if they're big or small. I would love to round robin this. My challenge for the day was feeling the disconnected loneliness that has been happening over the last couple of days, which led to the best part of my day, which was watching the sunrise and walking around in the woods. That was pretty cool, and I had a pretty good day following that. I did get an aura headache. Those don't hurt, but I see this really weird circular, like worm kaleidoscope thing that will happen, and then I lose half my vision on this side. It's fucking weird. And my eye's like a little weird. I don't know. It's been really bloodshot, but I did get that. It didn't come with pain, though. It didn't hurt. It just had this weird thing, and I lost my vision. I wouldn't call that bad or good. Challenge. Depression is being a bastard. Good thing. Caught up on personal hygiene. Hell yeah. That is combating depression. So extra high five. High five. High five. Ooh, you got accepted. Oh, that's so exciting. One bad. You have a migraine that's been going on for 2 days. Son of a fucking bitch. But maybe it's related to stress. So hopefully getting into the IOP, you're terrified. It's scary. And it's not just going to the program. It's the changes that will come afterwards. So please always use our spaces as a resource to feel connected and be brave. You are brave. This is a whole new way of doing it, and you're going to nail it. There's ups and downs to all of it, so perfectionism isn't going to happen. But I'm telling you what, this healing journey is scary, and you don't know what's going to happen, but it is so fucking freeing. It is so worth it. I can't say that enough. Why is everyone getting migraines? I think a lot of it has to do with stress. Janet, challenging was driving with all the crazy people. What is wrong with them, though? I just don't even know. Good thing was enjoying the beautiful weather. Hell yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. Yeah, it's like you'll get into it, though, and you'll do all right. Hopefully you meet some people in there to have some face-to-face connection with, too. That connection is key. But I just want to encourage you to keep moving forward on that. And express when you feel like quitting. Like express really almost anything that you're feeling when you feel safe to do it. But yeah. Yes. Well, and finding connections with people can help with your current relationships, having more connection. More connection doesn't always mean closer, but connection is great kind of no matter what direction the relationships are going to go, right? Also, like it all comes down to interconnection. And like, it's great and all, but also fuck. It's so overwhelming. I miss the part where I would just like tell myself, once I get this or once I do that, I'll be better. Like sometimes I just want to dip back in and live in my fantasy because that was easier. And I still do it sometimes. And then I catch myself doing it. And I'm like, oh, fuck. Fine. I guess I'm supposed to be a professional at this. But I think you'll find really great connection there. And that face-to-face is amazing. You might have to video us. Well, you know we have the equipment to do it. So. I doubt they're going to let you be on social media and shit like that, right? Like they'll let you do calls, but maybe not social media. I'll go out to my barn on our call and we'll pet horses together. How about that? We'll shit talk like girls, okay? We could talk about boys. I'm a 16-year-long hairdresser, okay? I'm fucking fantastic at talking about boys. I'm just, not to toot my own horn, but a toot toot, motherfucker, toot toot. Or any other gossipy girl thing, you know. But you know what? Boys are the most fun thing to gossip about. Because they're so dumb. I mean, I love them. Boys are not dumb. That was a very rude thing to say. I'm just kidding. That's my inner critic. Being a dickhole. And we'll talk about that tonight. It's only 4 hours. Well, it's still a fair amount of time. And it may lead to other group type activities. Juicy boy gossip, you live for it. Of course you do. We're all a little bit basic inside, okay? All of us girls. So, okay. I am wondering, how many of you are here specifically for the talk of inner critic? Like, how many of you that kind of sparked your interest? And what are some of, if it was, what are some of the things maybe that you're thinking about it? Is like a question, or is it more of a statement of like, I struggle a lot with my inner critic, or what is an inner critic? Just maybe, are you here for that part of the chat, or are you just here for my lovely, amazing face and sparkling personality? But if you're here for inner critic, what are some of the things that are sticking out for you? You've struggled a lot with your inner critic. Face. Such an asshole. That was my inner critic again. Oh, Lord. So funny. Kimmy's here for me too. Oh, Kimmy, thank you so much. Both the inner and the outer critic. Did you know that they are connected? I'm sure you did. You seem to struggle most when you are in a deeply depressive episode. It makes me wonder a little bit, like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it that the inner critic gets going on you and so it draws you down? Or is it more like when your walls are coming down or when your energy is going down in depression, then the inner critic gets louder? That might be an interesting self-discovery. That also changes for people as they become more connected to their internal state. Like, oh, you know what? I think I noticed this differently now. I'm so glad you're here, Kimmy. What a lovely new friend. You thought about digitally drawing me and Jim for our Fridays. That might be fun. I still think that if you're ever lost for inspiration, a very cute picture would be a Woody and Carly. Like, I don't know, running through some grass or doing something. I don't know. But they're best friends. I've decided. Oh, just about knocked my whole damn desk down. Your hallucinations keep going and going, and you start to believe them more times than others. Is there a different of enough feeling to them, or is there something that starts to trigger them that you know that they're hallucinations and not real? It's making me wonder about dysregulation in the brain, and if that is what triggers them. But what will you do with it? You'll hang it on your wall and you'll be like, this is the most amazing piece of art I've ever made. But they could be the second and third most amazing dog to you because, you know, to you, you have the most amazing dog and the most amazing painting already made of the most amazing dog. Just all these people you're going to make friends with. They're going to be like, can you put my dog on your wall? So weird. You're here for the sparkling personality, but you want to see if your inner critic is quietly active. I think it's subtle, but there. You obviously have done a lot of work on your healing journey because sometimes it takes quieting down of all the other things to even hear our inner critic. And it's more of a subconscious thing. It becomes more of like our core beliefs about ourselves rather than a voice that's playing over in our head. Depression has definitely ignited the fire as the inner critic is always around, but subtly, where it comes out roaring is in a highly depressive state. Okay, so it gets really loud. That makes sense. You know they are hallucinations, but to hear them constantly and trying to ignore them only goes so far. When you get depressed more, you lose track of if they're true or not. So here's something that's true for everyone when it comes to repetitive listening of this. And I have not had hallucinations without being inebriated in some way. So I'm not exactly sure how this feels, but I do understand brain science. Hey, Danny, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We're starting to kind of chat about our inner critics. So if you have anything, if you're here for the inner critic talk, maybe just share your thoughts or questions about the inner critic. So I don't know how things like calming, I call them regulation exercises, but like calming or grounding exercises, I don't know how these work for you, but like I found, especially when I was in my state where I was constantly vacillating between anxiety and depression, things like breath work did not work for me. I needed a different kind of regulation. That is what's called top-down regulation. When you have to really think about something or you start imagining things, it's a top-down regulation. What I do better with is what's called bottom-up regulation, which is regulating your brain stem and moving up through the brain to like your higher thinking part of your brain, right? You move on up from your brain stem to your movement center, to your emotional center and connection center, and up through the brain you go, okay? But that brain stem, when that is dysregulated, it's like an earthquake with a skyscraper on it, right? Think of your brain as a skyscraper with your higher thinking brain is way up at the top. But think about if the ground starts to go, how can anything else feel stable? So the regulation of that brain stem is done by something called passive sensory input. And it has to be rhythmic in some sort of way. When things are chaotic, like even listening to this. Like if you were trying to clap with me, there's no way you could do that, right? Because it's random. But if I was to go like this, you'd be able to clap with me because it has a rhythm. So like life can feel like it has a rhythm and life can feel like it's chaotic. So I would imagine that these hallucinations feel chaotic and have a chaotic theme to them. And passive sensory input is something that you don't have control over. So like me clapping and you listening to it and you watching me clap, that's a passive sensory input because you can sit there and do nothing and it's coming in. Watching branches blow in the breeze, passive sensory input, and it has a flow to it because it's in the wind. But when it's something like that, tacos are my favorite. Welcome. My friend Austin teases me about saying them so weird. Taco. But that passive sensory input is something that you don't have control over. So even if you're like sitting in a household as a child where parents are like fighting and you have no control over it, that's a chaotic sensory input. And it can make it so that your brain doesn't fully develop these connections between your brainstem and your higher thinking brain. So it makes, I forgot to turn that thing off for Jim. It makes me think that maybe they would get worse and worse and worse over time because this passive sensory input that you have no control over is coming to get you. And I would start to get curious about what might happen if some of these regulation techniques, if you tried some of these. I don't know if it would stop them. I wonder if it would give you a bit more control. I guess what I'm saying is like, I'm not a diagnosing professional. I'm just curious. You need to get some things off your chest, not expecting me to be able to help, but you feel like it would get better to get it out than keep it inside. So just to share, like, we're cool with sharing. We don't do a ton of trauma dumping around here just because, not because you are rejected and we don't want to hear what you think and feel. It's because I am a certified mental health coach, and so I know a bit about all of this. It's not always helpful to you, right? And it's not always a safe space for you to do that. But you are welcome to come here and share your feelings. Anything that is not TOS friendly, that's the only thing I'm going to like delete and cut out. And we don't talk about suicide, self-harm, or hurting others or animals. Those are really my lines. So if you're cool with all of that, you are welcome to share. But mostly why we're here is for connection, so that people can feel seen and build community. And if you want to totally be a part of that, you are more than welcome. But I give this spiel just so that I can keep the space safe, and so that everyone can feel welcome. And that's also something that's rolled out for you too. So I'm glad that you're here, Taco. I love tacos. So you don't know if you hallucinate or really vividly imagine the picture shit. Well, a lot of people who have hallucinations, like, they're literally seeing it. Like, it's playing out in front of them. It can be very, very vivid in the mind, but I think this is why it's so intrusive, because it's like real. A lot of the clients I've worked with that have schizophrenia, it's more voices, but it sounds like people are in the room. And sometimes, I mean, again, I'm not a therapist. That's a diagnosing professional. But sometimes it almost seems like some of the voices that these clients talk to are kind of like calming, like they're friendly and they're not being intrusive. They're just a part of their lives. So I know, though, when dysregulation hits and when things get really hard, that the voices can very quickly turn to being extremely unkind to the clients and encouraging them to do things that are really unhealthy. So I do understand that that can happen. But sometimes I just wonder, I'm like, man, is everybody in the world just different? And this is just the way people experience life? And if we stay connected to others and we're able to express when these things start to go sideways, like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a lot of judgment when people are different than everybody else. You relive your old trauma and you feel like you're there, but it's like you're in your head. Only really, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's very, very vivid. What is the word? Fantasies that are playing out in your head. There's usually a reason why that is there. Sometimes, most of the time I find it is an escapism of what's going on, or it's thinking out the situation before it happens so that you can keep yourself safe. You have both intrusive thoughts that play out like a video and for real and feel real. Your hallucinations are auditory, and it's like having someone in a room with you speaking. Yeah, not inner thoughts. It's like hearing an actual person standing behind you. Yeah, I have a client who has that go on. She can hear it from animals and like things, and then sometimes it's like a disembodied voice in the room. But like sometimes the disembodied voice in the room, I know that there's dysregulation that comes with that, but sometimes the disembodied voice in the room is like friendly and seems to say calming and nice, soothing things. But then sometimes we've talked about getting really evident about like how the tone of voice and is the word have to coming into it. And it's the vulnerability in her and how much she shares with me is amazing. I'm always just like floored by her, just like what she goes through. And then the fact that she's so honest with me about what she's hearing. I feel like that's got to be so vulnerable because of how much, just how much flack you receive when you talk to people about it. And then like how fucking hard it is to have that going on. So I appreciate you sharing that and educating everybody. That's really cool of you. And it's really vulnerable. And I see it and it gives me all the feels. So you went out to a party on Saturday and ended up getting spiked. Don't remember much from the night, but remember falling asleep in the middle of the road and then waking up in the back of a police car because you were para and couldn't walk by yourself, but feel mentally down, and it happened, and just looking for some advice, to be honest. Oh man, that fucking sucks. I am so sorry that happened to you. That is extremely scary. And so it's scary and you feel like you were taken advantage of, and then you wake up feeling like you're in trouble. I would encourage you to think about the situation at the end. Like, it sucks to wake up in a police car, but if any way possible, not to shame you into it, but just to maybe, as you work your way through some of your feelings, like actually feel your feelings about it. Nothing that you're feeling about it is invalid or bad. But as you work through it, I would encourage you to maybe reframe, like, if you were feeling in trouble when you woke up, that maybe you weren't feeling in trouble, maybe you were safe, right? So I am very sorry that happened to you. But I would encourage you to do as much reframing as possible. Not just like toxic positivity shit. I'm not into that. But like reframing of, in a way so that there's not this permeating shame about what happened, right? Because what happened to begin with wasn't your fault. So then if you start to feel like it's your fault by the end, that is a lie that trauma teaches us about ourselves that turns into a untrue core belief that is really hurtful. So the inner critic talk may actually be great for you because that's what we're about to cover here. So inner critic, there's many different ways to talk about this. I was a little resistant to it at first. I did a lot of reading about it, and it can be very complicated if you read like the clinical side of this stuff called internal family systems. It is the idea that we all have inside many different personalities, not like DID, which used to be called multiple personality disorder, but it's now called dissociative identity disorder. It's different than that. It's more of like an illustration so that we can name what our different feelings are. And it says that we have different parts or different members that live inside of us, right? Where I got a little lost, and where I will warn you guys if you ever go to read about it clinically, is it gets very specific as to what types these parts are and exactly what they do. And it gets really technical. And I got a little lost in that. And I think that's why I was resistant to it. And now that I've been naturally following through with it, I realized how much parts work I was already doing that I based off of some hypnotherapy I had gotten done. So it's fit in a lot easier. You know, you were safe. They took you home and they said they thought you were hilarious, but just felt like it was my fault and ended up happening and should have been more cautious. Okay, I'm going to rewind for just a second because the inner critic does say these things to us a lot. So this would be a good thing to kind of cover again. There are 4 lies that trauma teaches us. And the word trauma, not everybody identifies with, especially when you're feeling like it's your fault, right? So trauma is really many things. It can be chronic stress. It can be a challenge in life. It's just how your brain, in the state it was in for that given day, collected what happened. But this right here, being spiked with drugs when you were not planning on that very easily can be a trauma, okay? So trauma, when I use that word, it has a much wider definition than what most people do. What most people would apply to it. A lot of people don't identify with that word, and they say, oh, like people who have been to war have had it much worse than me. Well, also true, probably, but it's not comparative like that. The way that the brain picks it up, it doesn't always matter what the subject matter is. It's how it gets stored in the brain and how it tumbles around in there and tumbles around in your body. It's not necessarily the event itself. Okay? Yes. You know how I love this definition of trauma. I'll pull it up while I'm saying this. So, the 4 lies that trauma teaches us is I should be ashamed. It is my fault. I am bad, or I am unworthy is another way of saying that. And these 3 lies are kept into place by the main one, which is I am powerless. So, Taco, just to use what you were saying as an example, I am powerless was like, because, well, you can feel like it's your fault because you weren't cautious enough. You can feel ashamed that it happened at all. I don't know what that is, but is it a dirty word? Oh, it looks like it's a salami of some sort. Anyways, the situations like this will put these false beliefs into ourselves, and it's trying to protect us. That's what it's trying to do. So you can think of that it's your fault, that you should feel ashamed that it happened, and that you're bad, and that's why it happened. And it's all like you were powerless to stop that shit, right? And if you're extremely frightened, that's going to seal the trauma even deeper inside. So, understand that all these things are there to protect you from it happening again. Complex PTSD is from reoccurring over and over and over situations. PTSD typically has to do with a large main event. Also, the way that it plays out in the body is a little bit different. PTSD can be like a movie that someone is involved with that's fully playing out around them. CPTSD generally is emotional flashbacks. So, for example, someone can have a friend that makes a face at them like they're annoyed. Maybe the friend was actually thinking or farting. Like, even if the friend had none of that energy behind it, this other person can be triggered to the point where they go down a rabbit trail of feelings that leads to, I'm going to die from the cancer that I have. Or beat. The cancer that I beat, the client that I'm thinking of. You were also told by multiple other people the day after that you tried to get in my drunk mate's car who was going to take us home, but you don't remember any of it. I think the scariest bit of all is the fact that I'm getting told I was doing, but have no recollection of it happening. Anything to do to help this. So these are the things we're talking about, are these lies that trauma teaches us. So creating understanding around the feelings that you're feeling while allowing yourself to feel those feelings is extremely healing. It takes a bit of time, but sitting with that awareness while also allowing the feelings to come up in your body and saying to yourself, that's not a fully true belief about myself. Somebody took advantage of me. I went out to have a good time. I'm assuming you're younger. Do you identify as female? You don't have to answer that if you don't want to. But if you do, I mean, there's a lot of conditioning that goes into what our responsibility is as females, right? Don't dress like that. If you wouldn't dress like that, then you wouldn't have gotten sexually assaulted. If you weren't at a party, then that wouldn't have happened. You should have kept an eye on your drink. What were you thinking? Okay, these are all the things that have been fed to us, which really ultimately they're to protect us. But they're bullshit, to be quite frank about it. Can you tell it pisses me off a little bit? I'm a protective mama bear lady, even though I don't have kids. All y'all are my kids in a way. All my clients are my kids, even when they're older than me. It just makes me on fire. You're 19 and a male. Well, still, that shit shouldn't have happened to you. That's fucking bullshit. Let me see. I think it's here. I think it's here. No, it's not. It is here. Okay, so let's go over this definition because it is my favorite, but it is a little bit complicated. So I think I'll go over it piece by piece and then I'll talk about it and then we'll lead it back around to the inner critic, because the inner critic is a part that is trying to save us from feeling shame, which feels like emotional danger, and shame usually goes right around where trauma is. There's a couple different kinds of trauma. There's interpersonal, which is what most of us have, which is trauma that happened in the context of a relationship with another person. Environmental trauma is the other one. That's more like a wildfire burnt down my house, right? Like nobody necessarily caused that. It can manifest differently when you're in childhood, especially if you do not feel like you have safe caregivers. So when you are an adult, it has to do with how strong is your brain right now? What state were you in? Did you have a good enough childhood that you had an integrated brain when you were traumatized? And then you have good connection and support and like both mental health professionals and friends. That's how you're able to heal, and it's more dependent on you. When this happens as a child, which I will read in this definition, it has all to do with your attachment level with your caregivers and how much they're able to acknowledge what happened to you and take care of that issue while also continuing to care for your actual like physical needs like eating and drinking and hugs and loves and all of that, right? So it's more dependent on your caregivers. So yes, because that is the time when our brain is growing the fastest, but our brains are always growing and they're always moldable. They're more moldable when we put ourselves in like in spaces where we're able to do that. So like Plumie talking about how she's going to go to an IOP. That's great. That will put her in a state in her mind and in her heart, if she can find connection and education and support, to be able to change quicker, right? And it's not change who you are as a personality. It's shifting, like expressing, getting honest about these feelings, getting in touch with your internal state, right? Very smart, by the way. I don't know if I can say that enough times during this stream. But that was a long way of saying yes. Also, the sexual assault, I mean, that's hardcore. That can change a lot of beliefs we have. Yes, it does impact development, usually learning disorders. Definitely emotional regulation is a really big problem. So yes, it does. But again, it can be healed. And it's just the way that our brains are. It just doesn't happen as quickly as if you caught it when the person was still very young, because our brains grow a lot faster then. It's the same way how an adult can learn a foreign language. It's just not as quick as a child. That to me is the cleanest way of seeing the difference. But it's the exact same function of the brain why you see that happen. So, are you ready for the definition? Are you ready? Okay, I'm going to read it to you anyways, even if you're not ready. Okay. Trauma is about the individual's capacity to cope with the event and impact of the event and frequency of the occurrences. Okay? So it's about this person's capacity to cope with what happened, how hardcore was the event, and how often did it happen. Was it over and over and over again? Was it once? Right? Hey, Marshall. I'm going to leave that just for a second while I finish this up, and then I'll come back to it. I'm going to scroll up just a bit, so I'm going to miss some of the chats, but I wanted to pause chat right there. I love you, Carly. You're beautiful. Mommy loves you. She came in to say hi, and I didn't say anything. She's just lingering in the door like, are you going to quit with that damn computer and come love on me all day? Anyway. I love you. You got a boofy butt. You're the most beautiful girl ever born. Come here. Come here. We all have trauma. Come give us loves and kisses. Hi. Carly Dini. Even connection with the dog. Oh. You're so beautiful. I love you so much. Okay. So frequency of occurrence, it's based on a scope of personal resilience, emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Okay, so there's all these different facets of ourselves in which we have resilience, which is how we're able to cope with things and how we come back from things. If the person is a child, it is dependent on caregiver interaction, attachment, and if there are any safe caregivers. Right? So the child doesn't have this portion of their brain. They need the caregiver to co-regulate with them and to work through this with them on all of these different levels. Trauma traps emotions somatically in the body. So that means it traps feelings in the body and sensations in the body that we may or may not actually be able to feel. Okay? It is vital to address all the after effects of psychological, biological, emotional, and relational harm. Okay, so relational is like our behavior patterns. Biological can be what seems like an autoimmune disease or a random pain that shows up in our bodies. It's fucking crazy what can stop happening for people. So any questions on that while I read Marshall's? As you already know, I'm a person with unhealed developmental trauma. Mom leaving has fucked me up quite bad. I feel awful about not saying anything to Kat. Losing her would suck. My inner critic's destroying me. Like my inner critic always tells me that my mom leaving was my fault. There's one of the lies of trauma that like puts this deep inner belief in us. Almost losing my friend Kat was my fault, and that I was the only one who fucked up my relationship with my ex Madison. Shit, now I finally realized that I always need a hug. Oh, I love you, Marshall. I'm so sorry. Thank you for sharing that. If we could get hugs in the chat from Marshall. I don't know where the hug button is, and I don't think I have an exclamation point hug. No, I don't. But I put it there anyways. Because we love you. So yes, that can really fuck someone up, and you carry around that fault for a long time. It starts to make us feel like everything in every relationship is always our fault. I'm just gonna send back a poop. Bill! You caught me when I was chatting back with somebody. A poop emoji. Because I'm a mature lady talking about trauma. Casey's here. Admiral's here. Hell yeah. It's a fucking party. I love it. How are you guys? We're talking about that definition of trauma. I even pulled it up again because it is the shit. And we're talking about an inner critic. I feel so busted. Whatever. You condone that behavior out of me, I'm sure, Bill, right? Bill's a grown-up like me, but I have a feeling you send poop emojis to people too. How was your day at work, Admiral? I'm looking forward to tonight. I'm gonna raid over to you later when I'm all done bending their ear about the inner critic. I'm gonna dump the kids off at your daycare. I'm so glad you guys are here. The poop emojis. You can always count on me for maturity and grown up. I'm like, hire me as a mental health coach. So anyways, poopity poop poop poop. And hear me say the F word while I play a shooter game, which I will download. I will download and try again. I do not promise to not whine. I will whine through the whole fucking thing, but I will download it and try it again. It's all about yes, that's what I'm balancing the seriousness with my ridiculousness. Can we take steps daily to overcome the effects of trauma? Yes, you can. The main way of healing trauma is through relationship and connection. And sometimes those relationships need to be with a professional so that they can offer us this very boundaried, very supportive relationship that is all about you, even though parts of it feel like you're having a back and forth relationship with them. And the reason for that is so that you understand the feeling in your body of what it's supposed to feel like. Because you need to make requests to be able to connect in relationship, but you can't make requests unless you have connection to your inner self. But if you have severe developmental trauma, you can't connect with your inner self because that's very unsafe. So it's this circle jerk that you get stuck into. So there are friends that can help with it, but like, I really recommend working with a professional, whether it be a therapist or a coach that's specifically trained for mental health, because they're going to have that finesse to be able to have that relationship with you and have it be authentic, but also have it be about you specifically in your mental health goals. Thanks, Marshall. Ill Bill's inner critic is such a dick. I did, because I'm an eloquent lady. You should hear my clients. You know what? We have a great time. And it adds to the connection that I'm not just some like puffy asshole. Like, of course, I'm a little more professional, and it's a different feel. I am a lot quieter during most sessions, especially the beginning ones, but I'm a shit ton quieter during sessions because I need that space to be open for clients to say things, and people will fill the silence with all kinds of shit. So yeah, I'm a lot more quiet. I'm asking a lot more like curious questions, but I'm still me. Right. And so I would say too, though, the clients that I've gotten from Twitch, we can almost get started a lot quicker because there is that comfort level, even though a lot of them, like, I don't know their face, like the streamers I've taken on. Yeah. But the people who I've not met, they're a lot more comfortable with me, and it's my profession. So I'm more comfortable on camera too. So it's like, cool. Send all the good people your way. Love my definition of trauma. I stole it from a textbook. But yes, it's my definition. I wrote it. I didn't. That's straight plagiarism. What if trauma expresses through somatic feelings but no memory or thoughts of anything? How do you get at it? So you start working, when you're working with somebody, or you start to work into this stuff and you start sensing into your body guided through someone else, what feels like random stories and memories will come out. But sometimes what comes out is bursts of emotion. And then shame's all tied up into it. So like, I get someone that's finally feeling in their body, and tears will come out, or even anger will come out first. And sometimes it'll be like, I hate that it'll come towards me like, I hate that you act like that. Like, you're so sensitive. Like, I know who you are, and you're just patronizing me. And why are you acting like that? And then I'll be like, yeah, so what's behind that? So like, when I don't react to it and I just fill it with love and curiosity, then like sadness will come out, different emotions will come out, fear. And they'll be like, this story is so random. But you can work on it. It's through that connection with the other person. What's crazy is like how much body pain can be connected with trauma. But it's starting to realize how unsafe we feel all the time. Hey, Alts, I'm glad you're back. We don't realize how unsafe we feel all the time because our protective, automatic coping mechanisms are there always. I would say too, like, us women can be pretty protected, but men have been conditioned so hardcore from such a young age to not feel shit. And it comes out in all of these different ways. And yes, anger manifests, and I welcome anger. I mean, especially online, because like, what are they going to do about it? But that's the only appropriate emotion for men to have, but then also not. Like, criticize for that too. So this inner critic gets really, really big to try and keep us in check. The problem is you can't really stop a behavior or an emotion by stopping it. You have to express it and move through it and heal it and show it love and fortification and allow others to see it for it to actually be processed through. And a lot of it seems really ass backwards, but I know it's my job. I'm really not trying to like get coaching, get therapy, because I will. Like, if you guys want to private message me, I'll put up my Discord again. If you're having a hard time on like how to find a therapist and you can't afford a coach, like, that's something I'm happy to like tell you the websites that I understand and some of the things to look for. Like, I'm not just like, come to me for coaching, but so much of it is in relationship, and for others to be able to tell me their story and for me to continue to look at them in the same loving light that I did in the very beginning and saying like, it's going to be okay. There's this whole process. It's kind of different. But I'm reparenting. I'm reparenting the client, teaching them how to reparent themselves. So some of the feelings that they have about their moms will come out on me, even if they're older than me. People who happen to be attracted to women, both women and men, like they'll start transposing some of these things from romantic relationships onto me. Now, we have agreements where like, obviously we're not going to be in an actual romantic relationship, but those thoughts and feelings will come into play, which can also be very shameful and embarrassing. But like, that's actually welcome because of the parts of the brain that we're accessing. And then we can reparent or re-go through these relationships and change what the reaction is. And then that person can soak in that loving feeling of being held, so that when they go into new relationships, they actually know what a they can discern what's right and what's a coping mechanism, what's authenticity, what's a role self or masking. You still deal with chronic pain from ruptured discs. Working through some of your trauma has really released so much that was stored somatically. It's fucking wild, right? Like there's actual injuries that have pain too. I'm not saying that all pain is emotional, but it's fucking crazy. You, including a lot of the pain you used to suffer with daily. It's mind-blowing stuff. Yes, dude. It just, I had this severe pain in my hip that showed up after I went and stayed with my dad in the hospital overnight after he had gotten his big surgery for cancer. And I was like disabled. And I thought it was from sleeping on this weird couch thing. But then I went to a massage therapist that I don't know what she did, if it was voodoo or what the fuck, because she didn't say anything. But after she was done, she had these big blotchy hives. It hurt so bad, whatever she did to my body. And she was doing this breathing stuff and having me breathe with her. And it hurt so bad that these like hot tears, like my whole face was just like instantly wet. And I'm not a big crier, but we're talking the bazillion tears that come out at the same time. But I thought it was from the pain of what she was doing to my hip, because holy fuck. And she had big red blotches all over her, and the pain never happened again after that. And I had it for like 3-4 weeks straight. It was crazy. So it really can work. That was a different like body work type thing where she did breathing exercises with it. But it's crazy what you can do when you start to process your trauma. Can you type a question about memories childhood and get your thoughts? Yes, you can. I'm all down for that. Let's talk about, while we're kind of in between. I think we're in between. Thank you for sharing that, Bill. That's the shit. I can't wait for your interview because I feel like you're going to have all kinds of things. Around Christmas time, you were talking about some of your religious background. I don't share the exact same religious background, and I don't share some of the same religious trauma, but like that story was, when you were talking about that, that's so fucking raw, and I'm so like fascinated and involved with religious trauma, and I don't know. I'm always in awe when people can openly share about that because so many people struggle with it. So I think it's really important to talk about, but it's not like an easy fucking subject to talk about. So I really appreciated that you covered it. Tension in the body lends itself to pain. Yes, 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 yes. And migraines too. Well, that's also a pain in the body, but I wanted to add that. Okay. So there are some criteria that we can apply to that really long definition of trauma. It's when the individual feels that they are powerless to control the circumstance or event. So I am powerless, right? We already went over that. The circumstance or event is either intensely frightening or it is a moral injury, right? And then the last one is the circumstance or event changes the individual's beliefs about themselves, the world, and their interactions within the world. So things like sexual assault changes how you see fucking everything, how you view every person, right? You may not even get a clear view of the world if your parent is abusive. You may never get a clear view of things if you are constantly raised in a religion where you have to think and be this one certain way. And then you wake up one day and you're like, what? I can feel okay about myself? What? I'm yelling into the mic, but seriously. And just to go over a moral injury, it's an event that deeply violates a person's moral values and the moral values that are surrounding like welfare, justice, rights, and fairness. So that's what a moral injury is. So this is the definition of trauma. And if we go back to that internal family systems that we were talking about, which is all those different parts, which I love breaking this down with clients. I use it very differently with all clients. I have one client who's an artist and she draws and creates stories around each of her parts. And it's really unlocked a lot of stuff. Neglect is probably one of the most damaging because with a chaotic input, we have some connections there. They're just janky. Right? And so we can smooth them out. With neglect, this person has had to make it up on their own, right? I'm always very amazed with people who have been through neglect because it is hardcore. Let me check. Okay, so we have about 10 minutes and then I'm going to run an ad so that we can cut pre-rolls, but that'll give us enough time to kind of think about some of this. So the internal family system, we have all these different parts. Yeah, it does not have to be non-consensual to create trauma. Hello, welcome. I'm so sorry that you're feeling sad. I don't know how to read your name. Do you have a nickname we could put you by or what you would like to be called? I'm so sorry that you feel sad. You are welcome here. Welcome to our little community where we're connecting about our mental health. We're talking about the inner critic. So maybe this will be helpful to you. We just covered the definition of trauma. So big hugs to you. Thank you for coming. You are welcome here. And I'm glad that you stopped by. Did you find the channel by the mental health tag? Your parents were not neglectful, but you had a daycare person who was essentially when she wasn't being terrifying. So that would be traumatizing. That would be extremely traumatizing. So you would still have the connections in your brain, right? Because you have parents. But the neglect can be extremely scary on its own. And you probably felt like you couldn't actually name any of your needs because this person would shit the bed, right? So that's the other thing that creates those connections in our brain is the need cycle, right? So say a baby is hungry, then the need is created. I'm hungry. The baby recognizes that need because they feel the sensory input of the empty tummy and it doesn't feel good. And then they express the need by crying. And then the caretakers have an opportunity to come in and respond to that need. So is the need expressed and then responded to and taken care of? And at that point of them being fed and that need being filled, that is the point where the brain is learning and growing. Was I able to express it? Was I safe during expressing it? Was the need met effectively? Bam. All that information comes to a point right there. And so as an adult, I'll be very intentional. So like there's clients that I have interactions with, like streams and stuff like that, or like people that I know from horse barns. And so I create this we may text a lot more or, have a bit more, because you can have a bit more of a relationship when you're a coach and not a therapist. But like, I am intentional about not always chasing these clients down. I may check in and say, hey, if I haven't heard from him in a few days, but I don't pester because I need them to express a need and then I fill it because I know that's what's creating that healing. Or even if I'm feeling off and then the need gets expressed to me, I may not be able to fill it right away or say that I'm busy with clients all day. I may not be able to fill it right away, but then I do fill it. And then I tell them, I had a really bad migraine and I needed to take a nap, but you're important to me. Or I was working with clients all day. I didn't get to your message because I don't answer messages like when I'm in your session, but you're important to me. So before I'm going to go do, play video games or something, I'm going to hang out and I'm going to say hi back to you because you're important to me. And I am selective about who I work with, and I work with people who I resonate with so that we can have this what feels like a friendship. It is a friendship. I care about my clients a lot. And there's a lot of love shared between coaches and their clients, at least between me and mine, because my clients are all the best. So you feel everything. Oh, so sad. When you're happy, I'm happy. When you're sad, I'm sad. Oh, honey, that is the ads just ran. God damn it. I didn't want them to run. I'm so sorry. It can get confusing because there's times when we might not have felt the care or attention we received at some point during our childhood, but the memories can pop up, or when we're reflecting back, alternative views can come to light. I feel like I missed, did you? Because you said about memories in childhood, and then you said, you talking to me, Pluma, about the DM? I saw your one with the link. I didn't click the link. I did not click the link. I'm always scared to click the link like it's going to shut everything down. Is Booty Judy here? Oh, Judy. Judy brought his booty. I'm such a creeper. I can't stop. I don't really mean it, but I kind of do. It can get confusing because there's times when you might not have felt the care or attention we received at some point during your childhood, but then the memories can pop up when we are reflecting back. Our alternative views can come to light. Okay. I saw the DM. I didn't say anything because we're keeping it secret because we turned the sounds off, but I will check that out. You messed that up. So let me see if I'm catching this closely. I'm sorry about the ads, Schizo. I was going to be all like fucking thoughtful about it and shit, and then it ran. I'm glad you're here, Jody. I always gotta call out, when the babe squad comes to visit, my heart is full and I feel loved and famous. Okay. I think what I'm collecting by what you're saying, Casey, is that at some point during childhood, either you or who you're talking about received good enough parenting, love and care, but has not received it through their life, maybe in a spousal relationship, and is feeling traumatized from not being able to have that cycle met. Oh, when you're going through it, they might not stick out as bad experiences. Yes. So one of the craziest things that go on during session is people think, oh, I maybe had this trauma event or maybe I didn't. But mostly they're not happy about the way that they cope or the symptoms that they're having. And then when we start to actually look at their childhood, they're like, that's not traumatizing. Or they'll even become defensive about their parents. That's why I'm pushing this on my clients so bad. Book. Because you start to realize how much stuff did come from the parenting you received. It doesn't mean your parents were bad parents. It just means that they did the best with the tools that they had, and maybe the tools they had, some were good and some were garbage. So yes, it can be unconscious that what was going on was traumatic or wasn't meeting their needs. Most of the time it is. And then we start creating understanding around that and reframing the stories. But meanwhile, the whole time with your mental health professional, you're getting that need cycle met. You're being seen. You're being accepted. You're being loved in between sessions. So we're creating that experience internally that person needs to take with them later. And we are, we're connecting them to their internal state at all. There's times that I'll just if I have people just stop, they'll be blah, 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 about all these stories. And this is why sometimes I like to do 1.5-hour sessions or do 2 sessions a week, because then after they tell me all the things, which is just showing me all of these speedy parts that are in the way, protecting them, or coming up with reasons for the feelings in their body that they're refusing to feel and they don't know they're refusing to feel them. And then we will just stop. Because I'm a very fast-moving, talkative lady. I can go all day with that shit. And then I'm like, okay, come here. Sometimes I feel like I should have my shawl just hanging here and put that on. Thank you so much for the follow. And be like, okay, come on, you're getting a grandma shawl hug. And now we're going to sit here and we're going to feel what's going on inside your body. And that's when the crying happens, eventually. Sometimes it can take an hour. Sometimes people will have hot flashes. They'll sweat. They'll get angry. Random stories will come out. But I start to help them to connect with the feelings in their body and tell them that it's going to be okay and that I'm here. I'm anchoring you. Come with me. Give it to me. Come with me. I see you. I'm still going to text you this week, even though I just saw snot fall out of your nose. It's fine. If you farted, that's also fine because we're not actually in the same room, but still also fine. I mean, there's all these releases that come out of people's bodies that are fucking crazy. So then when we're able to start feeling inside of our bodies, we can start to sense our emotional sensations a lot sooner, right? So instead of only feeling extreme sadness and extreme anger, we start to be able to resensitize our bodies to feel it when it gets started. So we can go, oh, I don't need to control my face when that person is being a fucking dick. I can be like, hey, what you're saying is hurting my feelings. And leave it at that. Not have to overly explain why your feelings were hurt. Being able to name, you're hurting my feelings. And if you're at an age that you start healing and you're realizing how many relationships, that's the fucked up part, is realizing how many relationships in your life that you don't align with anymore. And how many of those people are completely unwilling to align with you again. There are people that will align with you though, and that can be kind of surprising, the people that you do bring along with you. But you start feeling those sensations in your body, and then you're able to start feeling the sensations of your emotions sooner. Then you're able to be more caring towards yourself. Your inner critic is not going to fucking yell obscenities at you anymore, because just like you only feel extreme anger and extreme sadness, your inner critic gets very loud. So does anybody have a guess at what the inner critic is really supposed to be doing? Because in our parts inside, we have what's called our higher self or our core self. That's not really a part. That's more this, because it can't really change, right? It's this part that, let me pull this up. I know you guys have heard this before, especially everybody who goes to Jim's channel too. But the self energy is like what I coach people from. Like, I'm trying to not bring my parts into play, even though my personality is there, and it's the true core self. And it shows these qualities: compassion, curiosity, confidence, calm, clarity, courage, creativity, and connectedness. So when you're able to show any of those qualities to these feelings, or start to maybe even, dig out like that these feelings and these behaviors may be this one part that's we start to understand that part. We start to understand what it's actually trying to do, and we treat it with curiosity. We try to gain clarity from what it's saying, and we show it connection. Instead of saying, shut the fuck up, we're like, man, it sounds like you're trying to help me, and you're coming at it from like a higher self. Plumi thinks that the critic is about survival. Yes. Most of your emotions come out as depressed or anger, but you have times where you're alone, something as stupid as a movie, and you'll break down crying, like it's built up for so long that it becomes uncontrollable. Well, an anger is a surface emotion that is protecting something, right? It's pointing out that there's something softer behind it, that it doesn't feel like it can let it out, or that it senses an injustice in the world. So it's always a surface, and it's always a protector. And so I get curious when people start to get pissed, like even if they're just ruminating on how mad they are about everyone else, there's always this pissed off period that goes on with clients. So I get curious about what's behind it. I'm going to scroll back up because I know I missed something big. The worst thing you unlock is a new memory, and it's a traumatic one. Your memory is absolutely shit. You remember our chunks of traumatic events, which after the age of 12 realized were wrong and have been treated wrong since I was 2, as far as I can remember. Yes, these memories can come up. Hachi, that's the only movie I can watch because you're just deeply devastated. That's the only movie you cannot watch because you're deeply devastated. Sometimes it'll be a song that comes up. Like, I'm not allowed to watch TikTok. I don't allow myself to watch TikTok around people because I follow all these artists and they play all their beautiful shit, and I'm like, So your inner critic is about protection. So if we just simplify this internal family system stuff, we've got our core self, which is our higher self, which is something that we're all, working towards. We want to become our higher selves, but we also want to allow our higher selves to inform and to be able to connect with our higher selves when our parts are feeling like jacked up. So there are parts inside of ourselves that are meant to protect. There are parts inside of ourselves that are managers. So these protectors and managers tend to be proactive. So a protector would be an angry part. You may have more than one angry part. So think about, say, when you get angry, you go and do the dishes really angrily, and you have to have them very particular, and you say these very specific things. You can give a name, whatever feels comfortable to you, or just call it the angry part. That is a particular angry part, and it has a certain behavior. And then we start to figure out that angry part gets fired up when it feels rejected. And it's like, oh. And when you start to get curious about that rejection, you can help that part to not feel like it needs to scream so loudly. Right? So, protective parts and management. So management would be like a perfectionist. Those are more proactive. They'll overthink ahead of time. There can be a lot of anxiety in those. Do I think experiences that were likely negative and traumatic have the ability to affect our bodies in a negative way if we hadn't recognized or identified them as negative or traumatic? Yes. Yes, I do. Because, I mean, a lot of people have been taught, like, what are you whining about? There's people starving in the world. What's your fucking problem? So, like, their bodies can still be affected because they knew it didn't feel right at the time. But if you're told over and over and over, your feelings are wrong, your feelings are wrong. And then here's a reason. Other people are starving. Other people have it worse. Other people have been beaten bloody. It's fine that you just have welts. Right? Like, you knew it wasn't great, but eventually you get to where you don't even trust your feelings. You start to think things like, I was a bad kid. That's why they didn't feed me dinner, because I was unthankful. Like, you will believe that, but your body will know that it's a lie. But your mind will believe it because then you start to behave well so that you can get the food. Or you start to behave well so that you avoid the beating. Or start to behave well so you're not shamed within an inch of your life, because when you feel like you're shamed that much, you feel like you're about to be cut out of your tribe, which would be extremely dangerous when you're 7. Right? Hello, Grizzy! Are you so excited for your interview tonight? Are you going to tell them all the farming secrets? That's what I want to know. Are you going to tell juicy secrets? I'm there for the tea, okay? The tea and the farming secrets. Grizzy's going to be over at Admiral's channel. Remember when we all raided out over there and I talked his ear off for 72 hours? It's Grizzy's turn tonight. I'm excited. And I think Bill goes next week. I will raid out eventually to you guys when I'm done blathering. So yes, I do think that it has an effect. So how about this? I know that it just ran an ad, but I want to run another one because the pre-rolls are supposed to come back in 5 minutes and I want to cut that shit out. But I'm going to run the 3-minute ads, but I will stop with the big time content and then we'll jump more into the inner critic and what these parts do. Sound like a deal? All right. I'm going to run these. It'll be 3 minutes and I'll see you when you're back. Go get a drink, go potty, and I will save the big content until the ads are done. Yeah, I know everybody who's subbed won't see the ads, but it's good to keep those pre-rolls off. It gets a lot more people to be able to like hang out and stuff. Oh, I love that everyone's here. It's just the shit. Okay. Those responses that invalidate feelings experiences really annoy me. Your mom was a one-upper. She probably didn't know how to not be, right? It's so fucked up because you start to see your parents' trauma when you start studying this work, right? You're like, I'm still mad about it. Like, I see what they did, but I still feel that injustice. So, and then if you're a parent yourself and you know that you started to do some of those behaviors, it's like, well, fuck. Now I feel shame on top of my anger. I love working with parents. I'm going to add this program with the horses where I work with teens and their parents so that I can help kind of both heal together. And I have enough horses that if I have to do separate experiences, it'll work just fine. I think everybody's excited for these Admiral interviews. He's so easy to talk to. So easy to talk to. I enjoyed myself getting to go and hang out and do all of that. We talked about all the things. I think I'm excited. He talked about doing like a mental health roundtable type thing, but I would be happy to go back and talk more about trauma. You can't even tell her how sore you are, how little you slept, just because of those small things. Like, oh, I know I haven't slept good for days. I don't think that he was. I think he is very supportive and he's all about freedom. I know what he does for a living, but there's some of that stuff he keeps off online. Like, I know he doesn't share his real name, but I know what his real name is. So I can't remember if he shares about his job or not, but his current job is not military. But I do think it was involved with the military. Yeah. I think he's known secrets, but I don't think he's actually military. But he believes in it, and he believes in freedom, and he's like, America, yeah. So he's good company, is I guess what I'm saying. But he plays a lot of Call of Duty most nights, and he's very motivating and inclusive. So I think that's pretty fucking cool. We've got about 10 seconds till the ads are done running, and then we'll be back in the money, and we'll talk about the inner critic, and we'll talk a bit about like what to do with it. So we're not just, it doesn't say Admiral. I didn't ask him to see his driver's license, nor did I ask him for his social security number, but I doubt it says Admiral on there. A little bit disappointing if you ask me. Just kidding. You hope that it does. You know what though? Like, I didn't really get to ask that many questions, but maybe when he's like, what do you think of freedom? You're like, listen, will you answer one question for me first before I get really intimate with you here? Does it say Admiral on your driver's license? I fucking dare you. He's probably still here hearing me talk shit. Your ads ended fast. Sometimes it only runs 1.5 minutes, and sometimes it runs 3 minutes. So but we get 60 minutes of no pre-rolls, so I'm a happy lady. Okay, inner critic. We'll go back into the parts work. So we've talked about the managers, and we talked about the protectors, and that they tend to be proactive. There is another type that is called a firefighter, but I guess you would just think about them as the reactive, like a reactive protector or a reactive behavior. So a reactive behavior would be like somebody has asked you the same question 3 times. And you finally are just like, I fucking said no. Right? And then everybody's like, that would be more of a firefighter. A firefighter might be the one that punches holes in the walls around the apartment because you're finally just reacting to these emotions that you've been holding inside. A firefighter would be the one that maybe you get an offender bender and you get out of the car and you yell at the person who did it. That would be it's reactive, and it's about protecting you. Firefighters don't think about the collateral damage. They just react. And what's hard about those, the inner critic tends to not be a firefighter. Yeah, those are the survival responses. So all of these parts, these management and protector parts can have all of these behaviors. Do you think each of us has a little of all of these, or do you think it's a type of high? We all have all these parts. So we all have a higher self that is not a part. That's just like, because it can't be altered. It just holds these qualities. And sometimes it helps to visualize it, right? But yes, we all have all of these parts. We are all born with parts, and then the parts become what's called burdened. So maybe who's the perfectionist now was just meant to be organized, enjoys having organization and putting labels on little cute containers and keeping stuff on the kitchen counters like jelly beans and shit. But it got turned into a perfectionist because it became burdened by trauma or by false beliefs or by like repetitive conditioning. You think you read that in Pete Walker's book? You mean this one? I love this book. I have his other one, but I haven't read it. But this one is the shit. I think even if you don't have complex PTSD, this can explain a lot. Also, on the website that's listed in here, which I'm pretty sure is just petewalker.com, if you scroll through, there is a protocol for handling emotional flashbacks. It's pretty cool. I print it out and give it to lots of clients. It's great. I love that book. I have 2 books sitting right here. I have the other ones that are put back on the shelf, but it's this book that we're covering, and it's amazing, and I've been using it a lot in sessions, and then the complex PTSD. Those are the 2 books that I have right here on my desk right now. I think the idea is like the firefighter comes in to put out the fires. Firefighters are more reactive, whereas like if you think about, I mean, soldiers sometimes can act as a firefighter, but a soldier's going to go in there and protect, right? So think about a police officer who is stationed at a space like at a rally that they know could get out of hand, or a police officer that's called to an emergency situation. In one way, he would be more of like a proactive protector, and in another way, he's more of a reactive protector. So the firefighters don't always think about the collateral damage. So they're going to spray your house with all kinds of water to get the fire put out. They're not going to think about the fact that everything inside may be destroyed, because that's their job. I'm not criticizing firefighters. They just call it that. So they come in and they're more like reactive, handle it now, emergency situation now. Nobody else is taking care of it. I'm going to fucking take care of it. And you can really call it whatever you want. Like, I like to call them reactive protectors. But technically, if you read the books on internal family systems, that's what they call it. I like proactive protectors and reactive protectors. That makes more sense to me. So we've got managers, we've got protectors, and then we have this thing that's called exiles. Exiles are the core hurt that's behind it. So when someone is sexually assaulted, when somebody sees shit in war, when somebody is a forgotten child, like one of my clients, she calls this exile part, the girl in the box. The girl in the box hides and is scared and doesn't really have a face and is sad and doesn't want to be seen. So the thing to keep in mind is we don't always have access to the exile. These managers and protectors are getting in front of and surrounding these exiles so that we can't get to them, because when the exile gets upset, that's when we get completely dysregulated and out of our minds. So I explain all of this just to give it some context. It gets complicated, and this is not how I cover it with clients. We more just start picking out the parts, right? And we may talk about how they're proactive and reactive, but understand that the reason I explained all of this is so we can understand that there are some soft, guarded parts that are behind the inner critic, so that we can understand that the inner critic really is trying to do us some good. Why is that tweaking out? The inner critic is protecting us. It may be a manager of some sort. It may be telling you to do something, but most of the time it's trying to protect you from feeling shame or being in danger. So like my inner critic, I was bullied really heavily. So my inner critic a lot will say like, you're such an asshole. Well, after I was done being bullied, I became more like loud and funny and would say all kinds of things. Now, it doesn't mean every time I say, oh, I'm such an asshole, that I'm feeling this deep pain about myself. It's more of an automatic thing that I say that I actually think is pretty funny now, but is that a conditioned response? Did it always feel funny? I don't know. It's something that I'm still working through. Or is it just a joke that I enjoy? Because when I first started doing this work, I'm like, does it mean that I won't be sassy and funny anymore? Because it's like actually part of myself that I enjoy and I connect with people. And it's like, no, but you learn when to be a sass and when not to be. It's less difficult to tell when it's appropriate. So my inner critic may call me an asshole, and that's more of the easy side of it. The other thing that I may hear is like, if I start to feel rejected by somebody, my inner critic will go off and say like, well, you called them too many times. You obviously divulged too much information to them. Why did you tell them all of that shit? Nobody wants to hear this shit about you. Those are the things that my inner critic says. But if I really stop and I go, okay, what was it trying to tell me? Well, it's telling me I'm uncomfortable with intimacy because maybe I feel like that information can be weaponized against me. Oh, well, I was severely bullied. So no wonder I think that. And then I think, okay, is this person in my life a bully? No. Is this person a really busy person? Well, yeah. Okay, so it's probably more like they got busy with their job. Maybe they saw my text and it was going to take a bigger response than what they had time for, and then they forgot. Like, that is a much more likely response to what's going on than they hate me and I said too much. It may be that they were overwhelmed and maybe they felt like terrible, like it maybe triggered some of their own shit to hear that happened to me, right? And so maybe they went off on that little tangent. It didn't really have to do with what you're saying is too much and I don't love you. It had to do with, I was so triggered by it, I didn't know how to respond to you and make it about you. I just kind of went off into my own little thing. So if you think about your inner critic, think of one thing that it says to you. Something that hurts your feelings. or makes you feel shame or anything. So let's go through this. Because like, okay, before I go through that, what would be your response to that one thing? Is it an emotion that comes up, or is it that you want them to stop saying it? What comes up for you when you hear that one thing that your inner critic says to you kind of often? I'm hoping somebody would be willing to share in chat. I know the example that I shared gives me the thoughts of walling myself off and not telling anybody anything anymore, that I need to keep that shit to myself. That's the reaction that I have. But I'm wondering if anybody has a different reaction. Carly's lurking up back in the corner. Oh, it's Kira. Kira. What are you doing? Maybe no. Might be a bit too triggering. Have I left everybody behind, or is it making sense what I'm talking about? Because now we can kind of dip into like what to do with it. What's another way of talking to our inner critic? Because most of us try to get it to just be quiet, or we do whatever behavior that it's telling us to do to get it to be silenced. You feel like a monster for the thoughts you have and the actions at times, like keeping issues to myself and thoughts and self, and leave my friends and family out of it. Mostly because I'm the one that they come to for advice, so I know their issues and don't want to add to their stress. So see how your inner critic is kind of twofer right here? Like you'll have the thoughts and feelings, which may be another part. And it may even be part of your exile, your hurt parts, your wounds. So then the inner critic steps in front of it and says, keep this secret. You may hurt our exile even more by even verbalizing it. And also, you know how you're going to hurt these others. So that inner critic is trying to protect that wound and keep it in the dark. Keep it from being touched. Keep it from being seen. Because the critic has become burdened by the pain. The exile has been exiled. But the critic is burdened with the task of protecting that exile. So we start breaking it down and listening to what the critic is saying without necessarily heeding what it says. We want to read between the lines. And the more that we can create understanding around it, the less it feels like shouting or putting us in this trap. This is a trap. There's no way for you to act out of it or feel what you're actually feeling. It's just, suck it up, up. That's what it does. And then it just sits inside and like, or it disappears and you dissociate. I would imagine sometimes it can add to the dysregulation that starts triggering some of the schizophrenia flares, or what you would call it for that. I don't know if flare is the correct word. Okay. So, the first thing to do, which it sounds like you already do this, is to notice what the self-criticism is. Why would sharing the thoughts add to their stress? It can re-traumatize. Or it opens them up to be shamed by whoever they share it with. You know, like in the Brene Brown that I was pulling up, you have to be careful who you share your shame story with. Maybe somebody inadvertently, when this has been shared before, somebody went, I can't handle your story. I have this, and that going on, and it shames them. So it's an avoidance and protection from shame. You internalize all of it, and you only have therapy to release any of it. Yeah, therapy's, great, but we also need more space than that to share some of these thoughts and feelings that come up where we start feeling like a monster. Because you have dark thoughts and you don't want to worry them. You're protecting them. It is like we do need to be mindful of who we select to share these things with. We don't want to burden somebody who can't carry it, because then it's going to feel extremely shameful. But yeah, sharing these inner thoughts can create stress. Now, there is a certain amount of stress that creates resiliency. But, this eye is burning. Yeah, it's because this contact. Ah, so much better. Sorry for touching my eye on stream. And this one over here is just burning. I'm sure you can see that. It's pollen season. So my eyes are just going wackadoo. I can understand why you would not want to worry them. And I'm sure there's been some pattern that has taught you that sharing does bad things to other people. And I'm sure it's been reinforced by more than one person. So the first step is noticing the self-criticism. Often it's like the emotion around it of feeling like shit. You're also super selective on who you tell about your issues. Such big stigma around schizophrenia. Yes, there is. A whole lot of fucking judgment, if you ask me. I'm not a prescribing professional, right? And I'm not a diagnosing professional, but I have worked with people with schizophrenia. They come and they tell me that's what they have. And I know it can be really scary and get really out of control. And there are times that people need to have a therapist who can do medical intervention, but I feel like schizophrenic parts need love and support too. And people should be viewed as different in the way that their brains work rather than scary or bad. Because it can get dark and there's a lot less control. So the second step is to kind of challenge what it's being said. So like, what is the valid need that's being requested? So think about that need cycle that we talked about. What is the valid need that's being expressed in this bubblegum bullshit of hoopla that it's saying? That's not very nice. There are some kernels of true needs. It's just wrapped up into not nice things. Like, I'm a real dick, so I don't deserve to be in a relationship with this girl because she's nice. You know, those kinds of things. Safety, connection, trust, success, respect, ease, clarify, courage, empathy, and achievement. So figuring out what need it's expressing, even like seeing through some of the not so nice, the things that trigger feelings. We use the feelings or the sensations in our body to realize that it's even happening. And then we step into what is the need that's underlying what it's saying. And then what is the tone that it's giving you? Is it being sarcastic? Is it being a jerk? Is it rude, harsh? Is it like cold and shuts you down and like sticks its nose up at you? Is it kind of playful? It may be playful, right? Think about that friend that says things that are serious and they're kind of criticisms, but they're always laughing about it. But they're serious. It's not just a joke. Is it mean and unfriendly or challenging? Like, what is the tone? When we start noticing how it's speaking to us, we're showing it curiosity and we're getting clarity on what it's talking about rather than judging what it has to say. And the more that we can show it these attributes of self, the clearer its message becomes and the less burdened it feels. The less it feels like being so mean and so loud all the time. Design a new way of speaking about the connections and needs of the critic, but say it with compassionate, curious tones that keeps you engaged in the conversation. So these super aggressive thoughts, what is a way that you can word a question back to the specifics of those thoughts, but keeping yourself using language that doesn't make you feel like shit? To try and get to what are those underlying valid needs? Because if you can start to fulfill those underlying valid needs, it can start to become unburdened. And when we start to notice the tone of it, we can understand how much we don't actually feel that particular way about ourselves. Like how we feel angry all the time. It may be more of the work of this particular part is in overdrive. Say the message out loud. Show the critic how to speak with respect. So you're modeling to your inner critic, like, this is how you say it to get your needs met. Like a caring friend might talk to you. So think about a child that's freaking out. It may even help to like imagine your inner critic, like what they might look like, what they sound like, what age are they, what sex are they, so that you feel like you're talking to someone, because sometimes it's hard to talk to oneself with that much care. Yours is insanely cruel in nature. Like if anyone ever spoke the way to a friend or family member, you would have an issue immediately. Getting better and better at checking it, but man, it ran unchecked for so long and it grew mighty in power. It's really hard too when you start attacking yourself with self-love and learning like where you might self-abandon. I appreciate you sharing that a lot, Bill. Like, yeah, I would kick someone's ass if they talk to my friends in the tone that I talk to myself, and I would be super upset about it. But then I talk to myself like that and it doesn't even feel like anything. I think too, what's hard about breaking it down with clients is like when I start pointing out some of the judgments they have about themselves and they start to try and almost people please for me and change what they're saying. It's like, don't change it. We need to express it. Like changing it in front of me is like shutting it down. And this, getting in mind that the inner critic is actually a great, wonderful, beautiful part of you that got burdened by bullshit that's not your fault, that you didn't put there. So it's a hurt. Like for me, my inner critic, it's easier for me to imagine mine as some smart mouth 13-year-old girl who I was, overweight with fuzzy hair, just pissed off at everything. So when I imagine my inner critic like that, I can hear how immature these messages are. And I can show her love so much easier than I can just straight myself. I'm getting better at showing myself self-love and not self-abandoning so much. But imagining this part as something that I know I can love now and as a part of me, I can hear it so much clearer and figure out what the needs are behind it. But so much of this is like learning when we're shutting it down. Once we start listening to it too, it may start telling us a lot of things. It'll usually be in a nicer tone, but it starts telling us a lot of things. And then it's kind of like, so you're overwhelming me. Not to shame you, but can you slow down a little bit because you're making me shit my pants. The idea of putting a face and personality to it, that's beautiful. Going to try that. Totally just my young punk ass self who is very lost speaking. I love parts work. It's so much fun to start walking clients through it. I think I already mentioned this one client, she's an artist. So she paints it and creates a story. But then there's some people that like, we just say, oh, a part of me feels this, or a part of me feels that. And then that's as far as we go. I like a little bit more creative. I can't draw worth a shit. There's my inner critic again, but my inner critic's telling the truth right now. That comes from a very unburdened space. I'm much more of a music lady. Or maybe, I don't know, building stuff, but drawing, not my jam. Casey says during COVID, your health tanked due to stress and other factors. Your blood pressure raised to the point where you started retaining fluid terribly. You didn't recognize yourself in the mirror. Just sat at home and cried because you even thought, I do not feel this way towards others, but I feel I was so chubby, I shouldn't really be in public. Oh, I've so lived that. My heart goes out to you. My heart goes out to you, especially when it starts to feel inauthentic to who you are. But yeah, breaking some of that through when it's something that you're looking in the mirror all the time and it's something that's not acceptable in society. And I mean, there's even people who are well-meaning that are like, love you. And so they're like, it looks like your health isn't doing so well. I love you. And it's like, I know I'm getting fat. Leave me the fuck alone. And so it gets reinforced in all of these different ways. So I feel you so much, Casey. And that can definitely happen from trauma. And stress creates a lot of inflammation and a lot of water retention. Schizo says, you've tried exercises writing down your negative thoughts and trying to come up with positive thought for every bad. You always end up writing 3 pages of negative judgmental thoughts, but honestly, you can't come up with one good one. I will think of something and then the brain automatically contradicts the positive thought. Sometimes those exercises to some people can come across as toxic positivity or trying to like almost bypass the bad feeling. Not for everyone. It's not a bad exercise, but for some, and it sounds like a bit for you, like it's not going to work. It may help to express some of the negative thoughts, but that may also kind of just put you in a state if you're writing 3 pages of negative thoughts. So I would encourage you to maybe try another way of getting curious about what are some of the needs underlying some of these negative thoughts. Like maybe you can write down 1 page of them and then see if you can find a theme. Like take the next page and like read the thought and figure out what the need is and what the tone is. And then look at the thought and then the need and the tone and the need and the tone. And see if you can find any patterns behind it. That will be treating it with curiosity. You'll be finding clarity. You'll be connecting to yourself. So you see how like, instead of being like, I'm going to counteract it, which counteracting does work. right? But it may not be working for you in this time. So creating understanding around that and shifting what you're doing. I would encourage you to maybe give this a try if it sounds like something that wouldn't be too triggering. I really enjoy parts work and figuring out why I might have some of these reactions. I've tied a lot of it back to bullying. There's a lot that goes on in my developmental history. My parents were very young. I feel very protective when I talk about it because I love my parents a lot, but very young. Oh, and my mom became a therapist later in life. So like when she went to school, she was like, I am so sorry. I am so sorry. And I'm like, I'm fucking fine. I'm in my 20s. I like to party and smoke weed and I'm doing great. And I'm fine. Fuck you. And then I hit 30 and I was like, oh, well, fuck. You seek approval, but you can't accept the compliment. It feels like you're being patronized or lied to. That is what's so fascinating. When I have to stay inside the window of tolerance with clients, but when I start to tell them positive things, I know that towards the beginning of us, doing the work together, it makes them almost distrust me like I'm a fool. Like you don't know. I'm really a piece of shit. You must not be able to discern anything, you idiot. And so that's the outer critic though. So if you think of an old megaphone, right? And there's a mouth that's shouting through and then, the words go into the outer world. The inner critic is always the one shouting through the little hole and the outer critic is just the voice coming out of it. So the way you criticize others, it's always fed by some belief that was drilled into you, some idea. But yeah, the inner critic is connected to the outer critic. So if somebody is being critical toward you, understand, this is why they say, oh, it has nothing to do with you. That never made sense because I was like, yeah, it did. They don't like how I look. And so they criticize me about it. Maybe how I look or how I sound or something about me, which is not my problem, but something about me triggered a memory, triggered a trauma, triggered a false belief. It reminded them of something. Their brain reacted to something about me that has nothing to do with me besides the fact that I just exist in their plane of awareness. And then they said something to me that they believe. And there's other beliefs that people have that, like, if they say it to me, I'm much more easily able to be like, I don't believe that way. So, like, if they said the sky is purple, it's always purple. Like, I would wish that is true, but I would know that it's not true. That would be easier. But when they start telling me things about how I look or things about if I'm stupid or, that I'm not good at something or that I'm not doing a good job, it's harder for me to be like, oh, something about me, even if it's like that I'm successful in my job, something about that makes you want to tear me down. And they don't even consciously know it. Most of the time. That's what makes it so fucked up. We have so much in common. Yeah, girl. Look at my bloody knuckle. Whatever. I don't have lady hands anymore. But they are little. Your mom gained perspective as she gained knowledge, but you met all of her apologies with I'm fine, I'm good, etc., etc. Yeah. And it's harder now that I'm doing all of the training because I'll talk to her about it and like sometimes it's fine and sometimes she's like, just tell me I was a good mother. She was a good mother. She did her very, very best and she's very honest when she rubs up against things that she felt like she maybe didn't do the best job at, right? I can't ask for better than that. And she definitely handed me a lot less in that generational trauma bag than what she received. So I can't be more proud of her. And I think too, like not having my dad be alive anymore creates even more appreciation for my mom and how short life really is and how quickly it can change. You're so protective over your parents. Yeah, I had a hard time even talking to my therapist about some of this stuff. I almost was able to process more when I was doing some of my certifications. Well, you may have been raised to protect their wounded child parts. I am their oldest. I am the boss. My mom has even said, like, I quit trying to parent you at 5. You just made your own decisions. And I wasn't even that rebellious. It wasn't until I went to beauty school that I had smoked pot for the first time. And I mean, I guess I did have sex with my boyfriend when I was in high school. He was hot though, and I was in love with him, and we were going to be married forever. Now I've seen him as an adult, and I'm like, oh, I dodged a bullet there. Yeah, I'm the oldest. My mom was 21, and my dad was 25. And she had a severe history. Her mom loved her a lot, but severe abuse history. And then my dad, his dad was a World War II Navy vet who beat the fucking shit out of his kids. And they were pretty super religious. So you see an ex around town and you think that way. I just saw this one, his kids go to the same school as one of my friend's kids. And I've seen him working at the gas station. I mean, it's probably been over 5 years since I've seen him. But he's still working at a fucking gas station, which no shame on that. But like, that's where he was working when I found him. Not that exact same gas station. And him and his, I think she's his ex-wife, they cheat on each other all the time. And it's just like, he cheated on me a lot. A lot. I didn't realize how much that still affects me to this day. But it does. But yeah, definitely dodged a bullet. And then I had one other very serious boyfriend that I lived with for a very short amount of time. He was the only guy that ever hit me. And that didn't go well for him. And I got to learn that lesson real quick. I'm not meant for that either. He was gone real fast. I'm sure you're all very shocked that that didn't work out. And he didn't get away with it. Don't fuck with me. I'm scary. So we lived together for a very short time because I thought we were in love, and then not so much. Okay. Enough about my boyfriends. It's been a really long time. You're a forgiver to a fault. I can forgive. I probably give people too much stock when I meet them right off the bat. Like, you start off innocent until proven guilty. But there are people that I pick out that I'm like, I want to be friends with you. And sometimes I'm wrong, but a lot of the times I'm not. I'm just attracted to them for some reason. And like a friendship type attraction. Just something about somebody will resonate with me, and I'm like, they're it. They're going to be one of my friends. And then sometimes I'm sure I come off very creepy when I've decided that someone's going to be my friend. Yeah. I can't remember where I was going with that. Oh, forgiver to a fault. I can be somewhat petty and hold a grudge, though. Like, once I've decided. Usually, though, it's been several times of somebody doing something shitty or getting shitty with me. Being kind of snide like that, or trying to gaslight me, even if they're doing it in this very soft, defensive way for themselves. That's the one that gets me with women. When women gaslight me, I'm like, listen, you were just telling me off and now you're going to tell me it wasn't happening. I'm on your side, lady. Don't do this shit to me. And then I get pretty like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. And I can get kind of petty about it. But if somebody comes back and actually apologizes, even if they apologize in kind of a roundabout way, I'm not super sticky. Like, you have to say, I'm sorry for blah, 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 blah. I don't like the I'm sorry you feel that way. That's very passive aggressive. But if somebody does their best to like say that they're sorry, then I accept a lot of forms of I'm sorry, and then we can get back on the same page really quick. So I guess I'm not that petty because I will let it go if there's like an honest try for a repair of the rupture. You stayed with a man for 3 years after learning that he was also with your sister. Lord, you tried to make it work. Were you married to him? You fuck my sister, man. You are out of here. That's just too weird. You're super sensitive to people. Either will get along or they are a serial killer and you need them to get as far away as possible. Black and white rigid thinking is a trauma response. 2 years in your relationship and you needed his pause to take a week to evaluate where we were going. It was during the break. He called your sister because he was pissed. Like, there's so many other vaginas to dive into. Like, you do not need to fuck someone's sister. I'm sorry. There's always someone. Every man you've ever been with has fucked your sister. Well, your sister sounds like a real gem. I wonder what all that's about. That's kind of weird. You just made my wheels turn. My first boyfriend did try to be friends with my sister, but he wasn't trying to fuck her. He was, I think, trying to call her and be friends with her so that I would hear like what he had to say. Like, there was one thing where he had sent her a letter and told her all about the Mustang that he bought. And then he went into the sporting goods store where my cousin worked, and she was like, oh, I heard you got a Mustang, because for years she wanted one. And she ended up having one after that. But he was like, no, I bought a Kia. So a Kia is nowhere near a Mustang. Just making sure you knew that. Yeah, I think that's strange that your sister keeps fucking all your boyfriends. So there's a little something going on there. But that is a relationship that might or might not be worth working through. It might be, though. Does anybody have any thoughts or feelings or things to add, things to ask about the inner critic? I don't think Pluma's here anymore. Plumie, did I miss some of your comments? Did you say goodbye and I missed it? Oh, she did. Okay. Sorry, I missed it. She did say she had a migraine earlier. That's right. I missed it. I get to talking and I don't mean to ignore anyone. And then there gets to be enough people here that I get a little lost in what I'm talking about. I'm surprised I don't talk about all of these kinds of things in some of the therapeutic outlets. I like working with therapists, like ones that are already doing the job. Coaching just hits different. Close all of those. Oh, I got a whisper. Oh no. Random, but would you ever sell feet pics? Just wondering. God damn it. I probably fucking would if the price is right. If we're getting real. Also, do you think that they would accept horse feet? Mama wants to go shopping for a new summer wardrobe. I know. I don't mind showing my feet or even my ankles. And if you wanted to see my calves, I probably would totally do it. It's just the idea of it. Just, I don't know. It's not really the energy that I want to be putting out there. I had someone that I was friends with for years tell me something. Like, we were friends. We played games a lot, like 10 years ago, and we were real close, and I really enjoyed him. And he had even flown out here and met my husband and all of their friends. So, like, I didn't meet him, but he was someone that they had, like, met. And then I went back to start playing games with him, and he called me a couple different times and said some things that were kind of nasty. And then, he would be like, oh, I'm kidding. But he'd be talking about, like, jerking off and, like, when are you going to get that divorce so we can hook up? And I'm like, certainly not going to be first on my list. And then he called me on my birthday, and it was really fucking bad. And I froze too while he was doing it. I was just like, and he just said all of the things. And I, like, can't. Of course, I finally confronted him about it. I was just ignoring him and ignoring him and ignoring him. But like the way he went on for like 20 minutes and all the things that he said, there's like no way. He even went on to how many babies that we were going to have. You start talking about that shit, you are no longer fucking kidding, and I don't care what you say, you weren't kidding. You may have been drinking. He didn't sound like he was slurring, but I'm like, it made me question some of the stuff from when we were first friends. And it is different, like when one of your guy friends is like, I think I kind of love you like in that way, and I want to tell you the truth. Like that to me is different. And I've had clients tell me, that kind of stuff, and that there's a certain respectful tone. Or even if somebody's like, I have sexual thoughts about you, and it's said in that sort of a way, it's like, that's something that we can work through. And I don't get embarrassed about sex. It's part of our adult lives. So like that stuff to me is fine. Whereas I think a lot of women that I work, like my peers as coaches, would be highly uncomfortable with that. And I can hang. But listen, I'm not having anybody's fucking kids. For one. But it just went on and on and on. So I confronted him about it. And of course he sent me back a message that was like, oh, of course I was just kidding. And I'm sorry that you didn't believe that. But that felt like I'm sorry you feel that way kind of thing. And it made me question our friendship. I'm like, was this always going on? But then he was even talking to me about like, when you're on stream, this is what people are doing. And which I know probably it doesn't take, whatever. It's none of my business what people are doing. I'm putting out there what I want to put out there, and then people are going to do with it what they're going to do with it. But I feel like sending feet pictures would probably promote that a little bit. And it would just feel kind of weird. But even though it doesn't feel like something that's too exposing to me, that would be the intent behind it. It was just weird. The other thing that they said was like, all your male clients are doing this during sessions and after sessions. That bothered me a little bit. I think it's just because it's like, I have some male clients that I'm really attached to and that I care about a lot. And it was just like taking something that's beautiful and intimate and close, and they're doing a lot of healing with some of their female wounds and able to share some of their intimacy, and it tainted it, like he was trying to taint that and get in the middle of that, and it really upset me. Oh, the person who sent the whisper was Ill Bill. No, I'm just kidding. It wasn't. That was a lie. That was an embellishment. It's okay that you feel that way, Bill. Thank you for asking in such a respectful way. I'll think about it. So fucked up. Yeah, that would be probably one of the most recent kind of weird things. And I get random messages all the time. Or people asking me if I'm single and stuff. I knew that kind of stuff was going to happen, and that's fine. Like, I don't like to shame people, women or men, when they reach out in that way, because it's pretty vulnerable and people get shut down a lot. People are lonely. So I try to just keep that in mind, that maybe you don't have the most mature way of reaching out when you send some lewd fucking picture on Snapchat. Like, I don't appreciate it, but I'm not underaged and I can hang. So like, whatever. But also no. But also, if I had that, sir, I would also show people. That was my first thought when I saw that. Hi, Carly. It wasn't for Carly's eyes, though. I didn't show her. Okay, go have fun. I'm gonna I'll raid over there in a little while. Let them get time to get warmed up. Love you, Belle. Thanks for coming to hang out, buddy. I'll see you soon. I'll follow you soon. I should stop sharing stories about dicks. I can't help it. They're just so much fun. Austin's here. Austin. Welcome home, honey. I'm assuming you just got off of work. You have a little something going on or a big something? How was your day, Austin? I'm so glad that you made it. We were going to raid out to Admiral in a little while. He's doing another one of those interviews. I'm probably going to listen to it and play some video games. What have you, yeah, I'm sure you were at work. I guess I should give you time to type before I continue to ask you question after question. You missed all of what I said. How dare you? I just asked you how your day was, and did you just get home from work? You're welcome. Thank you for coming and interacting with me. My responses may be slow in the middle of the day, like if you're sending me ones on Discord, just because I get out onto the farm, especially when it's really rainy like this. Like sometimes the gutter just breaks off and I'm having to like emergency style fix the farm. But it's not that I don't want to talk to you or respond to what's going on. And I'm pretty good too, like if something gets to where what you're sharing with me is too much to what I can respond to, not that you're too much, but that like I professionally know what some of the boundaries are, I'll just tell you. I can be pretty direct. You're ready to yank a knot in your nephew's ass. Sounds like some good unclein to me. Yeah, thank you for coming and sharing, because like I would say that you shared some really good content that people could start to create some more understanding about schizophrenia and how it feels. Like some of the more tangible stuff, like how you shared how some of it is auditory and some of it, you know, how it feels to you. I think that understanding is a huge step in acceptance. And that's pretty amazing shit. And he tried to do something that isn't TOS friendly. What a fucking brat. I really hope that the VA can get their shit together to see if you can find a therapist that to work with that it is more suited to you. Is it because they feel that they're not suited to you, or like that they can't help you? Oh. I think we're friends on Discord too. So like if you have shit like this in the middle of the day, Casey, you have to send it to me immediately. That is something I wouldn't do. I won't actually send the feet pictures either, because I know that that person is using it as pornography, and I don't even send naked pictures to my husband. I'm such a prude when it comes to that. But he also lives in the house, so be like, hey, you want to see something? Oh, he's only 8. Oh, that's scary though. That may not be something to yank a knot in his ass about. That may be something that's going on at home. Is this someone local to you, or they just reached out to you like online? Where did they find you? You're willing to talk about anything. You know, it sounds weird talking online to people, but it doesn't feel like you're talking to a real person. So more willing to be open. Yeah, there is that removal. That happens with people too. Like if they've just come to some of my education stuff, and then we sit down on Zoom and we start interacting, they're like, I'm weirded out right now because you're talking specifically to me and not my chats. That would freak me out. That's a bit too far on something that they want. That makes me think of people who have sent me things that are like, are you looking for a sugar daddy? I'm like, nope, I'm good. We talked about the inner critic. We talked about the definition of trauma, which I know you've heard me read that definition before. And we talked about showing love and care to our inner critic and how to figure out what the needs are, like being able to see past the tone that they're giving us and be able to uncover some of the needs that it may have. You don't treat people the way this person wants to be treated. Well, this person will find somebody to treat them the way that they want. Isn't it interesting, though, that we talk about the needs cycle and how I explained that? This person obviously is wanting reparenting, right? When you really look at what they're asking you to do, that's the need they're trying to have fulfilled. Isn't that fucking nuts? So this particular thing, this particular fantasy that they think will make them feel better might actually be healed if they could succumb to some mental health help. Isn't that wild? The VA is inconsistent with providers. They're always switching you around, like talking to someone for a few months and then they leave and have to start over fresh with a new person. Oh, I get it. Oh, so you know who this dude is. But you don't want this read on stream? I would imagine that's why you didn't put it in chat. That makes it harder. What I would tell this person is just say like, I am in school to be a mental health professional, and I know that there is more going on behind this. Oh, yeah. Okay. That's understandable. And then if he ever was to watch the VoD, yeah, I get it. Basically, this person has a fantasy and they want it fulfilled, and it's not like the most overt, yucky thing, but it could be very embarrassing. That's what I'll say about it. But it wouldn't really be appropriate for a mental health professional or somebody, you know, in school to do that, to fulfill this and say, you know, I fill people's needs in other ways. This really isn't something that I would feel comfortable doing, because I would be reinforcing a fantasy. I would not be actually helping you to get into a better space. You grew up around VA hospitals and you know that shit sucks. He knows there is too. I've had to stay on stream for 2 days straight to help him stay alive. Oh, man. You get the vibe either that you feel like you can trust him, or a serial killer so hard to find someone comfortable with opening up to. And again, my thoughts get dark. And to be comfortable and to be open without being thrown in psych ward when it's not warranted. Well, I guess what you may be able to get out of this is that relational need being met more so than the stories that are being shared. And try some of these exercises that you're learning. Jim has great stuff that he talks about in his stream. You're now in my stream too. We'll work together most Fridays. So he goes every day. The stamina on that guy. That's why I have to mix it up with my streams. My eyes are so dry right now. But I would say figuring out exercises from these streams and mixing that relational piece with the therapist, as long as you can find people who you trust to have that back and forth and that need being met of being heard and being seen, and then doing some of these things to see what starts to help on self, that may be the way to go. Yeah, to talk with understanding. You can't read all of these. What's going on? Are you being triggered by them, or are they not showing up on your screen? Should we go creep on Admiral and see if his stream is going yet? Oh, you're driving. I was just gonna creep on Admiral before we raided over there. Here, let's see.
We're to pass on a lot of his comments by.
You can hear that, right?
Where the fuck keep going? All right, so you started then. Do you feel you're successful at streaming?
Let me show you guys.
I feel I'm learning.
Still learning mode?
Oh yeah, and I think if you're not, you're either not trying or don't care. I mean, you should always be learning something. My dad always says, if you don't learn something that day, it's a waste of a day.
Do you feel that? Do you try and learn something every day?
Whether it's by screwing something up or, you know, figuring something out when I'm working on something. Yeah, I mean, I don't try to learn something, but usually pick up something, you know.
Do you think about it like consciously when you go to bed at night? Like, what did I learn today? Did I learn a thing?
That I do.
You've tried providers. Here, let me pause this sound.
Every night.
You've tried providers that don't understand the difference between your intrusive thoughts and your intent to act on them. You have no intent or willingness to act upon them, but you have times where they jump the gun and you have to talk your way out of the psych ward. I was going to try to figure something out on the fly, but I'm not that quick. You're having to fight to get your Adderall. That's bullshit. Yeah, I don't know what my deal is. Are there any like questions that you guys have? I don't know what my problem is. Like sometimes I raid or I stream really late. I think I'm getting spoiled by my Fridays. Like I'll stream real late, which we have to get controlled about. Thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome. Oh, there's a shortage. That's why you're having to fight for it. Ooh, Jesus. Yeah, if anybody has any mental health questions, I'd be happy to answer, do some Q&A on the fly. I just had the inner critic content kind of set up for tonight. Hold on. Let's flip through Pete Walker's book and see. Let me see if he has a section on the inner critic. Let me look in the table of contents. Toxic shame. Bloop, 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 bloop. Shrinking the critic. Wait, what was the 25? Okay. Let's talk. Let me just read this section. Hello, Heather Jones. You're sharing the love vibes on Twitch. Sweet. Well, you're welcome to share the love vibes here. We enjoy that around here. We're all about it. I can be kind of a silly pill, but it's a mental health channel. I stream a bunch of variety of things, but mostly what I want to promote is connection. They don't have 30 milligram, so doctor wrote 2 15 milligram pills. Text-to-speech is being really good for you today. How did you find the channel, Heather? I'm just curious as to what stuck out to you to help you find the channel. It helps me. Yeah, let's read this section. Shrinking the critic. Early abuse and abandonment forces the child to merge his identity with the superego, the part of the child's brain that learns the rules of his caretakers in order to get and maintain acceptance. Hello! Thank you for stopping in to say hello. You were just scrolling through Twitch. Oh, that's awesome. So it's just in one of those random listy lists, probably in just chatting. Thank you for coming and supporting my channel and hanging out and giving me a follow. I like making new friends. I'm reading the Shrinking the Critic section in the complex PTSD from surviving to thriving. Oh, I guess I could introduce myself. We have a few new people in here. I am Jessi. I'm a certified mental health coach. I also live on a horse farm, and I provide equine assisted mental health activities. Sometimes it's coaching when I'm working on my own. And sometimes I pair up with a licensed therapist and we provide psychotherapy appointments. I also will stream games in the middle of the night, so excuse me for my cuss words while I play Fortnite. But most of the time I'm doing mental health sessions like this, or in my office set up almost like I'm doing a mental health session. And then sometimes I'm taking care of my horses out in the barn. I stream the horse barn. That's kind of cool and different. But thank you for coming, and I'm glad that you're here. Insurance won't cover unless she does prior authorization. She won't do the paperwork. She says my options are here to pay for it out of pocket or wait till my dose is back in stock. It'd be $100 for 30 days. Good heavens. Hello, Skooma Lizard. Welcome, another first-time chat. Awesome. How did you find the channel? I always love to ask that question to new chatters. It helps me to keep doing the same thing so that more people can find it. But welcome. I appreciate you coming and being here. To our new friends. We're talking about the inner critic tonight. I was just reading a short little section out of Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving from Pete Walker. So I will keep reading this little section. Early abuse and abandonment forces the child to merge his identity with the superego, Thank you. I appreciate it so much. That's so awesome. You're so supportive to the channel. I deeply appreciate it. It helps me to keep my costs down in providing sessions for clients. So thank you so much. The rules of his caretakers in the part of the child's brain that learns the rules of his caretakers in order to get and maintain acceptance. Oh, sweet. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I always have the mental health one up there. That's one of my top ones. So thank you for letting me know that. I'm going to read this and then I'll catch up on chats. Deal? However, because the acceptance is impossible in the CPTSD endangering family, the superego gets stuck working overtime to achieve the impossible. Perseverating on finding a formula to win over her parents. He exchanges his and her a lot in this book, so he just puts a sex to it. It's an old book. To win over her parents, the child eventually embraces perfectionism as a strategy to make her parents less dangerous and more engaging. Her one hope is that if she becomes smart, helpful, pretty, and flawless enough, her parents will finally care for her. Sadly, continued failure at winning their regard forces her to conclude that she is fatally flawed. She is loveless, and not because of her mistakes, but because she is a mistake. Let me read that again. She is loveless not because of her mistakes, but because she is a mistake. She can only see what is wrong with her or missing in her. Anything she does, says, thinks, imagines, or feels has the potential to spiral her down into a depression abyss of fear and toxic shame. Her superego fledges into full-blown trauma-inducing critic. Self-criticism then runs nonstop in a desperate attempt to avoid rejection-inducing mistakes. Drasticizing becomes obsessive to help the child foresee and avoid punishment and worsening abandonment. At the same time, it continually fills her psyche with stories and images of catastrophe. The survivor becomes imprisoned by a jailer who will only accept nothing but perfectionism. He is chauffeured by a hysterical driver who sees nothing but danger in every turn of the road. Chapters 9 and 10 focus extensively on practical tools for shrinking your inner critic. Now, this book is, that was just a little section, Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving by Pete Walker. That's carrots for Bean. Bean's like, that was my money. You have to buy all carrots and nobody else gets any. Let's see what I missed. Searching mental health. Okay, I saw that. Thank you. Yeah. I'm just going to listen. So I read, yay for the follow. I always get so excited about follows. Carrots for Bean. Perfectionism, they are the burden. That's why they feel. I know that too well. You have CPTSD. And then we answered what the book was. You got to get that. I'm still reading The Body Keeps the Score. So The Body Keeps the Score and this book were 2 of the 5 required reading when I went and got my trauma recovery coach certification, and it mind blown. I don't know if this will show on camera. So I fold a corner over when something is important. Look at this book. It's every 3rd page. It has a corner folded over. But The Body Keeps the Score is extremely important. Another book that is amazing. This one. This book is my friend Jim's fault, okay? I don't take credit for this, but this book is fucking awesome. I've been using it. It's Adult Children, Emotionally Immature Parents, and I've been using it a ton in my sessions. Let me go ahead and put up the Discord since we have new friends. And if I am a mental health coach and I do online sessions, so if you find yourself in need of a mental health professional, that is something that I do for a living. There are limitations around it, and I do have to charge money. I can't take insurance. But if you find yourself in need of a coach, it's not exactly the same as when I'm on stream, of course. It's different, but that's something we talk about in the discovery call. The Body Keeps the Score is more like a textbook than a self-help. Yeah. It's not the most complicated textbook. It's pretty digestible. But yeah, it doesn't have it does describe some of the healing methods at the end. But yeah, it's a lot more information than this is how you heal yourself. And it is about how the brain and body hold trauma. Yes, definitely. I forgot to take that sign down for Jim again. I like to have that up on Fridays so that like people go and follow him too, but then I forget to turn it off. And then sometimes I'm playing games at night, streaming it, and I'm like yelling cuss words. And it's like, go follow Jim. He'll be friends with this crazy bitch. And then it'll be like, she's a mental health coach after I get done shooting somebody. No, whatever. But yeah, that book is, I like both of those books. They're both great. I appreciate the new friends that we're making tonight. That's so cool. I'm into it. I can't really think of anything else that we were going to cover tonight. We're getting closer to 7:30. Was there anything, you got to hop off, you had a rough day? Yeah, go do some self-care. Thank you for stopping by and finding connection. So much love to you here. Boop, 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 boop. That's all the love for you. And Bentley. That's what the little face thing is next to it. I don't know how well you can see it, but thank you so much for coming to stop by. You missed everything. You were here in spirit while you were driving, and thank you for not texting while driving because I want you to stay safe and in one piece. You went to a Little League game. How exciting. This music makes me want to go to sleep. Boo blue 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 doodly doo doo bloodly doo. You're welcome for the amazing singing. Well, I know that you just kind of got here, Austin, but I'm kind of thinking it might be time to raid out and go see the interview that Admiral is doing. Because I'm kind of out of content. And so I'm just going to be sitting here singing you guys bloody-doo songs. So the next time I will be streaming, today is Tuesday. I will be streaming on Thursday in the morning-ish time, around 8:30 Pacific Standard Time, from the barn while I am cleaning horse stalls. But you guys are welcome to join the Discord, and I appreciate all the new friends that we made. And I'm glad that people are able to draw some information out of it. Would I have to talk to a therapist to know what kind of trauma I have, or are there books that you can read to find out? A therapist may be able to help you. There are books that can help you. I would say more of what people work on are what are the effects of trauma on themselves? Like, what would be the reason why you would go and weed out what is trauma and what is not? So there are traumatic events that it may be helpful to dig up what the exacts are of, trauma that happened to you, but sometimes it's not helpful. It doesn't really serve a purpose. It's just more so like, do I have symptoms of trauma, and what can I do to help that? Did I make any? I feel like I'm starting to run out of sensical information. But healing is found in connection and in relationship, especially when the traumas have to do. There's two kinds of trauma. There's relational trauma, which happens in a relationship. And then there's environmental, which is like a big forest fire or a car wreck, right? So if that trauma happened in relationships, say developmental trauma, like you didn't get enough care as a child, then it is healed in relationship. So having a therapist or having a mental health professional that can center this relationship around you appropriately can really help. And they can create that. They can create a lot of safety for you and start to show and model to you how a healing relationship should work. You have problems with feeling like you're not enough, but you don't know where it comes from. It's kind of derailed your life. So there are 4 lies that trauma teaches us. And it sounds like you're struggling with a big one. What if it's not the relationship kind? I think it's about being able to take care of the relational patterns that come out of it. So I still think, like, even when it's not the relational kind, that being seen and heard and told that everything's going to be okay is extremely beneficial. I just got another whisper from the foot person. Let's read it on stream. Oh, they just said sorry. I wonder if they're in stream listening to me giggle about it. I'm not making fun of you or shaming you. I just get a little bit uncomfortable. Not extremely uncomfortable, but a little bit uncomfortable if you're here listening. And I don't always know how to deal with things outside of humor. It's one of my coping mechanisms. But the 4 lies. I should be ashamed. I am to blame. I am not worthy or enough. And then the one that keeps them all in place is I am powerless to stop it. I'm so glad that you stayed so late. If you okay, I promise that if I feel that you talk too much, I will tell you. I promise. That is our agreement. But I did not feel that way tonight, just to clarify. What if the foot person is your person? Might be. Hey, thanks for the follow, Skooma. So when you sit in session with somebody, I may teach them about the lies, but mostly we're going to kind of dig into what belief has been built around this thing that trauma has told you and whispers in your ear over and over and over and over. So I'll put the Discord up one more time. I am officially a certified mental health coach. So, I do online mental health appointments. And there's only, I work with people with developmental traumas and unknown traumas and start to kind of dig back on why these things might be happening. I am not a therapist. I'm a trauma recovery coach is my official title. I'm also an equine assisted activities coach, and I am an equine professional when we're doing psychotherapy appointments. But I cannot accept insurance for my services. That you would have to find a licensed therapist for. But I can work with many different kinds of people, and it starts off with a discovery call, which is free. So I usually kind of if people are interested in it, I give them kind of a skinny on the prices before we go into our discovery call, which I try to keep everything as reasonable as possible. I sell everything in packages so that I can keep it cheaper. And then it's just meetings over Zoom as we work through some of this stuff. If anyone ever needs to chat or needs to vent, feel free to DM you in Discord. You're willing to lend an ear as a friend. So sweet of you. I usually am. It just ends up so deep so fast that it takes up a lot of time, and it's what I do every day for a living. So it's not like don't message me, but I will kind of tell people once we've hit our limit that I feel like I need more information and it needs to kind of move into a professional type relationship. But I'm a pretty boundaried person and kind about sharing that. So I'm going to go ahead and raid out to Admiral because I need to take these contacts out before my eyes burn into the abyss. But yeah, Casey, man, there are some of these things that we resonate very similarly to. So like, if you ever find yourself in need of a coach, pick me. Because I feel like I know a lot of your stories in a personal way, not to project or anything, but I totally am. But yeah, check out the Discord. There's a lot of cool people there. So sorry I'm ending soon, like after you got here, but I am around a lot. I haunt Twitch. But we're going to raid out to my friend Admiral, who is starting this stream that he's doing on Tuesdays where he interviews people and kind of goes deep into their stories. So I think this is going to be really cool. Just to let you guys know, they don't look at chat while they're chatting. Every once in a while, Admiral will be fed some things by his mods, but they don't really they don't really look at that because they're having like a deep dive conversation. So just so that you guys know. You're not on the Discord. Well, post more pictures, man. Come on, hang out. You can tell us what you're mad at your nephew about over there, because we don't have to worry about TOS. I love all of you. I hope to see you really soon in the future. And yeah, Friday. Come see me Friday. Come see me Thursday morning or see me Friday night. Oh, you should suggest to him that I get to do it. You don't think it's good to tell exactly what's up? Well, yeah. Yeah, okay. I'm going to trust you on that. Well, thanks for stopping by and becoming one of my new friends. I hope to see you next time, and thank you for chatting and sharing. I think that's really cool. And I look forward to seeing you all soon. So have a great night.